Hi, good day everyone, and a warm welcome to you. We are so glad to have you join us for today's SEDAT HR Digest, which is proudly brought to you by SEDAT Consult. SEDAT Consult, your trusted HR partner. SEDAT HR Consult specializes in training, in recruitment, outsourcing, HR consulting, staff outsourcing, and event management. And guess what? There's an upcoming program which is dubbed SEDAT Business and HR Summit 2026 Kumasi edition. It's that time of the year again. Join industry leaders, forward thinking entrepreneurs, and HR professionals at the SEDAT Business and HR Summit Kumasi edition for a powerful day of insight, networking, and transformation. And the theme is building sustainable and competitive businesses through people, innovation, and leadership. Early bird tickets are available in person for 700 Ghana cedis, virtual goes for 550 Ghana cedis, and early bird ends at 31st August 2026. Please, you don't want to miss on that. So secure your spot now and be part of the future of business and HR in Ghana. Thank you all so much. I'm your host for today's episode, and my name is Evelyn Irajua Jumbo. Kindly drop your name and your location, and I'll surely acknowledge it in due time. Thank you. Also, please like and share this link to your friends and colleagues, even your bosses. They need it. Okay, they all need it. And follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you see SEDAT HR, please tap on it and just follow us or like and share our stuff or whatever that is going on there. Okay, so today's topic is very, very interesting as we've gathered for a conversation that is deeply relevant to every one of us because while we may have professional titles and responsibilities, we are also human beings, right? Yeah. So our topic for today is navigating personal crisis without losing professional credibility. Sorry about that, such as grief, divorce, and illness. Personal crisis can affect our emotions, concentration, decision makings, relationships, and ultimately how we show up at work. But the question is, how do you navigate these difficult seasons without losing the trust and credibility we have built over time? And equally important, how can organizations and leaders respond with compassion while still maintaining accountability? And to take us through this important conversation, we are privileged to have Evans Kobna with us. Let me just quickly read his profile to, to you. Evans is a dynamic and results oriented in human resources practitioner, trainer, and consultant with over 10 years of progressive experience in strategic people management and organizational development. He holds a bachelor's degree in human resources management and a master's degree in strategic human resource management, complemented by multiple professional certifications and extensive practical experience in HR policy design, performance management, and leadership development. He is a certified labor practitioner and certified alternative dispute resolution ADR professional with an executive mastery certificate in compensation and benefits management and a trained HR auditor. He is currently he currently holds the Senior Professional in Human Resources International (SPHRI) and also certification, and he is an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management (CIHRM). He's also awaiting chartered membership. Additionally, pursuing an LLB to deepen expertise in labor and employment law. Evans brings hands-on HR consulting experience to a diverse portfolio of organizations across Ghana and the United Kingdom, providing tailored HR solutions, policy frameworks, and organizational development interventions. Wow, that's Evans for you. So, shall we please welcome Evans as he take us through today's conversation? Yeah, welcome, sir. Please have the floor.
All right, thank you, Rama. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes, please. I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, so I would like to also thank SEDAT for such opportunity. Uh, there's another time we need to learn certain things that is happening in the industry that people have not paid attention to those things. Employer is looking out for performance, but we fail to also look at the factors that can affect the employee performance at the workplace. So I was so happy when I saw the topic about navigating personal crisis without losing professional credibility. And we were going to focus on grief, divorce, or separation, as well as illness. Even though we as a professional in the HR field, the labor law speak especially about illness, but most of the time practitioners always overlook those things and then make certain decisions that affect the well-being of the employee. So it is important we need to look at it from the perspective of an employee and then from the perspective of the employers. So
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, if a worker is going through such crisis, he or she will be able to know how to handle such situation so that their performance at the workplace will not be affected.
Yeah.
All right. So navigating personal crisis without losing professional credibility. At the end of this presentation, I'll be glad that participants on this call will be able to explain the concept of professional credibility and why is it vulnerable during period of personal crisis. Another objective I intend to achieve is that they should be able to identify the distinct psychological and practical demand of grief, divorce, and illness within the work content. And then the third one I intend to achieve is to apply the practical strategy for maintaining performance and trust whilst managing personal crisis. Right, I can hear my feedback. I don't know whether some people mic are on. Please kindly see to it for me.
Okay. Okay. Yes, there's a feedback from your end.
Okay, I think it's now better.
Yes, please. Yeah.
All right. So the fourth objective I intend to achieve describing the legal and policy obligation of an employer under the Ghana labor law when supporting employees through crisis. When an employee is going through a crisis, is there any law that enforces an employer to, show concern on those things? So we are going to look at it. We are going to look at it from the perspective of the labor law as well as the Data Privacy Act. And then the last objective I intend to achieve is evaluating the role of an HR and line managers in balancing compassion with organizational accountability. So at the end of the section, these are the 5 objectives I intend to achieve. And I believe that it is going to be lively and then very educative.
We can't
At the
wait.
end of the section, I'll try to put a practical question to solicit people ideas about how they are going to handle such situation. All right. Every profession will at some point, or every professional will at some point face a personal crisis that threatens to spot into their work life. As far as we are working in an industry, one way or the other, we faces issues that affect our work life. The issue can be personal, it can be family issues, or it can be even an industrial issues. And among these issues are illness, separation or divorce, and then the loss of loved one. Now, when these issues happen, it affects employees' performance at the workplace because such issues comes with emotional and, and financial demands. If a person is going through a lot of issues, it automatically affects how the person relates even toward other colleagues at the workplace. So professional credibility is built relatively through consistent reliability and sound judgments. Now, the idea is that the professional, before you can make a good judgment or certain situation, you need to have your peace of mind. So when you are facing crisis that is affecting you, it even affects your judgment in terms of issues handling. And you cannot overlook those things. You cannot overlook those things. Sometimes we try as much as possible to be calm, but inwardly, these
Hello,
issues,
Ivan.
if it is not well addressed or managed, it go a long way to affect our performance in the industry or in your
Hello,
organization.
Evans.
When I talk about
Hello,
credibility,
Evans. Can you hear me, please?
what it means is that credibility is not a single credibility
Hello,
is
Evans.
not yes.
Please, you're not sharing your slides. Hello? Wow. It seems our speaker is finding it difficult with his network. Okay, okay. He's back on now. Okay.
Please, can you see the screen now?
Yes, please, I can. I can see
All
the
right, thank you.
screen. Okay, thank you too.
All right. So I was saying that as a professional in our way of life or in our work life, there are some time that we faces personal crisis, and such crisis we normally face, some of them are the divorce issues that people go through, illness, and then grief. This issue does not give you prior notice. These issues does not give a prior notice to you, the employee, that, oh, tomorrow you fall sick, so prepare. So when those things happen, or tomorrow you are going to lose your father, or you are going to lose your mother, so emotionally prepare. This crisis does not come with prior notice. It hits you when you don't even expect it. And when it happened that way, we are saying that it affects your emotional ability, and then to the extent of even financial demand, sometimes even your physical demand also comes in. Now, as a professional, when you are facing those issues, how will you handle it so that it will not affect as well as your performance at the workplace? So I said that credibility, as we all know, it is built cumulatively through consistent liability, sound judgment, and predictable conduct. I always say that credibility can be found on three pillars. That is, we have the competence of the worker or the person, the character of the person, and then how consistent the person is. These are the three pillars when it comes to credibility. So if any crisis affects any of these pillars, it means that automatically it is going to affect how you are going to behave in the workplace as well as your productivity. So I always love this quote by saying that credibility is not lost in a single moment of vulnerability. It is lost when vulnerability goes unmanaged and unspoken. If you are not able to manage the situation that you are going through, that is where your credibility begins to be at stake. Now, how do you understand this credibility as a professional? So, as I mentioned earlier during my introduction, that credibility stands on three pillars, and I call it the triple C. The triple C. So, these triple C's are the pillars that credibility is always standing on. So credibility rests on the three interlocking pillars. And with that pillars, if it is one is affected and it is not well managed, your credibility is being affected at the long run. So personal crisis typically strain consistency first. So when you are not consistent about certain things that you are doing, let's assume that you have been coming to work every day, you come to work early, and you get to realize at some point you are always late. That is where people begin to talk about it. Of late, you are not coming to work, but people are not ready to listen or know what you are going through. But they always judge you based on your consistency. This time, you are not meeting such. So before they threaten the perceptions of competency or character, so people always talk about your consistency before they even think about your character or your competence. So what are the three C's I'm referring to? I'm referring to competence, consistency, and then character. When you talk about competence, competence refers to your image or your inborn characteristics that enables you to work well in the organization. Your inborn characteristics that enables you to work well in the organization. Now, studies has revealed that competency or competence has characteristics, or let's say three category. The first category of competence is the technical competence. For instance, when you talk about a technical competence, you are talking about your ability to perform in a specific role, or your skills or the knowledge you have on the role. So let's assume that I am HR. As an HR professional, what are my technical competence? The technical competency of an HR person is your knowledge about the labor law. This makes you a unique person from somebody at the account department. Because when you are talking about the labor law, the account department person does not have in-depth knowledge about the labor law. So it makes you the HR as a technical person when it comes to the application of the labor law. Then we have another category of competence which talks about the personality. Your ability to communicate is a personality competency you're supposed to possess. Your ability to be reliable, your ability to meet pressure or work under pressure, these are a personality competencies that you enjoy at the workplace or as a job holder you're supposed to possess. And then the third competency talks about the managerial competency. So in terms of competency, if competency is not well managed, it affects the worker professional credibility. Let's assume that somebody have come to you as an HR professional. HR, please, I want to understand how leave is being governed by the labor law. Your failure to exhibit or to show the worker that indeed you know the labor act, the sections that talks about leave, the minimum leave requirement as per the labor law. If you fail to do those things, it means that you are lacking the competency. And when competency is being lacked, your credibility is also at stake. So that is about the first pillar, competency. And then the second is about the consistency. How consistent are you? How predictable are you? How dependable your conduct over time? So we are saying that it is easy for people to always measure your credibility with consistency. Let's assume that today I have said A, tomorrow I'm saying B. Somebody will tell you you are not credible. We cannot rely on you because every day you change your mouth or you change your words or you change the way you do your thing.
Yeah.
So it is easy for people to be judged or to judge your credibility based on how consistent you are at the workplace. Then the last pillar I talk about, character. Character. And when we are referring to character, I am talking about your integrity, your honesty, how sound you are in terms of judgment under pressure. Do you favor people based on your peripheral interest, or you always want to ensure that your judgment is always on point? So when a people get to realize that your integrity is at stake, it also affects your professional credibility. Nobody is willing to trust you. Nobody is willing to work with you. That is about the three pillars of professional credibility. The triple C: competence, character, and then consistency. Now, let's look at the nature of personal crisis in the workplace. We were limited to these three crises based on our discussion this evening. Now, bereavement or grief. Now, when people face this kind of personal crisis, it affects their emotional intelligence and their thinking ability. You were at the workplace and then you had a phone call that you have lost your father, your wife, your husband, your child. Automatically, you go blind at the workplace. We are talking about personal crisis, and these are the crises people go through. And when such situations are being when this such situation happen, it affects the employee way of living at the workplace as well as their performance. Because how do we judge an employee? We judge an employee based on their performance. So if you are not meeting your performance at the workplace, that is where questions are being asked. People forget to find out what you are going through. So we are saying that bereavement or grief, it affects your thinking ability as well as how you behave toward others at the workplace. Then another crisis we go through is about divorce. When people are going through marital issues, it affects their emotional, it affects their financial status, it even affects how they even come about at the workplace. Oftentimes, marital breakdowns or issues is accompanied by stigma, leading to employee to mark distress rather than seek support. So people find it difficult to share issues of that nature. People find it difficult to handle issues of that nature because they feel like it is my personal thing, and it goes a long way to affect the organization as well as their personal credibility. So that is about the second crisis or personal crisis that happened in the workplace. And then the last thing is illness. And as I said earlier on, illness does not give notice that today you'll fall sick or tomorrow you'll fall sick. It
Yeah.
comes unexpected. And when it comes, it has a lot of issues on you. Sometimes serious illness can even affect your thinking ability. Serious illness can even make you absent yourself. And let's assume that you promise your team that, oh, tomorrow I am going to have fun, or I'm going to have a party with my department because I've been here for 5 years. Then at dawn, you have a serious headache that even affected you to the extent that you can't even move the next morning. How will your team members see you? They might feel that you have disappointed them. They might feel that you did not honor your words. That is about the credibility we are talking about. Meanwhile, when you are going to the bed or when you are going to sleep, you did not say to yourself that you are going to fall sick the next morning, but it happened. And when it happened, people fail to find out what contribute to that. Now, the next thing I want you to also bear in mind is about the tension between the crisis and professional expectation. The tension between the crisis and professional expectation. Now, the workplace you and I find ourselves, the offices, wherever you are working that you find yourself, it is built around predictability. The employer is expecting that at the end of the year, its objective is being achieved. Your boss is expecting that at the end of the week, the department goal is achieved. Whatever it is predictable. It is easy to predict at the end of the day. But the personal crises are difficult to predict those things. Who can tell me on this call that when I was going to sleep, I knew tomorrow I'll fall sick? Who can tell me that when I was going to sleep, I knew my mother would die the next morning? These are the things that you cannot predict it, but genuinely it happens. And when it happens, it puts tension on you, not necessarily you only, but also on the aspect of the organization. Now, when these things happen, why employees find themselves wanting is out of fear. So the employee fear is one of the tension that arises when personal crisis happens. Now, they fear that people will see those crises as their weakness. So now, my madam said on Friday we are going to have a departmental drink up. So she's going to bring pizza, blah 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 blah. And on that Friday, my madam was sick. Nobody was aware. She couldn't show up. What is going to happen at the department? We will see those crises as a weakness that she doesn't honor her words. Or the company said that, oh, this week we are going to reward employees who perform well. And the net at the dawn to the day, let's say the MD had an issue, so he's supposed to travel, of which the expectation that we are going to receive something was not approved. What will happen? People will begin to criticize that the MD did not honor their word. So they see the crisis as weakness. And when it happened that way, employees always fear to open up when they are going through those crises because they don't want other people to see it as their weakness. So instead of them to communicate, they rather avoid it in their self, or they rather keep it to themselves. They don't want to even express it for people to get to know. That is about the tension, the employee fear.
Okay.
Then we have what is called the organization fear. Is my screen visible or is off?
It's off.
Right, can you see my screen or I'm off?
You are off, but I can hear you.
Okay, then let me try
Hello.
to.
Okay. But I think you can continue. Even though we don't see your screen, we can hear you loud and clear, so it's fine. Okay, so whilst we wait for Evans to come back, he mentioned the three professional credibility, which is competence, consistency, and character. Wow. I didn't think of it that being consistent or inconsistent can create an empty misunderstanding when it comes to professional credibility. Like you not being consistent can cost you your credibility. It's quite interesting to know, and it's made other important statements too. Hello, Evans.
Yes, madam, I'm here. Can you see it now, please?
Okay, it's loading. Yes, I can see it now.
All right, thank you. Sorry, it seems today my network is not helping.
Yeah, I know, right? It's fine.
All right. So I was talking about the tension that arises when employees are going through this crisis. And then the tension is not only for the employee, but also for the organization. So I was looking at the angle that, okay, as an employee, what will make an employee feel difficult to even share the problem they are going through? And the issue is that they fear to share their problem because they don't want others to see that problem as their weakness. And
Okay.
I was citing an example that if I promise you that I'm going to have a drink ups with you today at the office, that at dawn I fall sick, I couldn't show up. In your head, you will see that I'm not reliable because I have deceived you. But you will never find out
Mm,
as to what happened that I did not show up. And I also find it difficult to communicate because what am I thinking? I'm thinking that people will see it to be my weakness that, oh, this guy, that's how he is. He always promises you, but he doesn't fulfill his promises. And these are some of the reasons why employees sometimes unexplain their crisis. It's out of fear how other people are going to acknowledge that crisis on their behalf. On the
mm-hmm.
aspect of the organization, please, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can. I can hear you.
On the aspect of the organization also fear to accommodate the employee crisis. Why? They fear because of precedent. When Amma was not feeling well, when Amma came to tell us that the father passed away this dawn, we gave her 1 week to go and mourn the father and come back. Kofi will also come the next day and he will also tell us that the mother has passed away. And when we decide that, oh, due to operations, we cannot give you 1 week, but we can give you 3 days, Kofi will feel disappointed in the organization. Because of that, the organization also fear to acknowledge or fear to accommodate the crisis of an employee because they don't want to set a precedent that someday somebody will judge them on it. So these are the tension that rises when crisis comes upon the employee and the organization. The employee fail to speak out because of fear. What other people are going to acknowledge their crisis as their weakness. The organization also fear to also accommodate the employee crisis because they don't want to set a precedent for tomorrow. So these are the two tensions that arises between the crisis and the expectation of the employee. So the employee fear and then the organization fear. Now, as a professional, as an employee, as workers, what are the strategies can we use to sustain our credibility during this crisis? What are the strategies we can use to sustain our credibility? Don't forget that when you lose your credibility, it even affects your performance. It even affects the way you communicate to people.
Yeah.
If people don't see the value of your work, the sustaining of your submission, whatever you say become, sorry to say, it become rubbish in their ears. So it is important that as an employee, you develop these strategies of sustaining your credibility. You develop these strategies of sustaining your credibility. Okay. So one of the strategy is communication and disclosure. A brief professional head up without fully disclose, preserve trust far better than silence followed by visible decline. We are saying that one of the strategies that communicate, disclose your problem, tell people, tell your manager that this is what I'm going through. But we are not saying that go and give the full details of the issues. Just give a heads up, a brief of your issues. It is better to preserve your trust and your credibility than keeping it or keeping it which affects your productivity or your performance. Then another thing or another strategy you can develop is boundary setting. Boundary setting. Be explicit about temporal limits. Renegotiate deadlines proactively and resist the pressure to appear unaffected. Don't always behave that you are audacious, nothing affects you whilst you are going through crisis. Now, when they give you 3 days and you realize that 3 days will not be enough, it is important to renegotiate your deadlines. It helps you to sustain your credibility. Then I will give you 3 days, then you come on the 5th day. It shows that you cannot be trusted. So that is another. Then you have another strategy is performance management. Prioritize ruthless on what most affect trust and continuity. Always ensure that things that will build your trust, things that will build your confidence, are things that you're supposed to prioritize first. And then we have the self-care and support system. Draw an employee. See, as an employee, you always need to have what is called EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. And this program will help you to overcome certain crises. The Employee Assistance Program can be counseling. It can be you sharing your issue with your partner to find amicable solution to those things. Now, let's look at the legal. My time is almost up. The legal aspect of this. How do we build our confidentiality? How do we build our credibility? How do we maintain our professional credibility whilst we are going through this crisis? Do we have, as a labor practitioners, do you have any law that will entangle us that we should be careful on how to treat workers going through that situation? Yes. The Labor Act 2003 Act 651. When you look at the sections, section 20 up to, let's say, 25, it talks about leave. So in terms of illness, you need to, a worker is entitled for sick leave, provided that the worker presents a medical certificate from a medical or certified medical practitioner. That worker is entitled to go on sick leave, paid sick leave. So it is another way that we can use to, support an employee going through such crisis. However, Section 63 of the Labor Act also tell us that if you mismanage an employee in crisis, the crisis can be the employee performance is going down. You are not ready to, help the employee. The employee has brought you excuse duty due to a sickness, and yet we said, oh, because the employee is going home for a long time, I am going to terminate the employee contract of employment. The Section 63 will see that as a constructive dismissal, and the law will hold you responsible. However, as a professional, when your worker discloses a health information or sensitive personal information to you, you are under an obligation, according to the Data Protection Act 2012 at 842, to protect the information, to keep it confidential. Some of us, when people tell us issues, then we turn it to be FM station. We begin to broadcast it.
Everybody gets to hear.
Yes, and that is a wrong practice. It also
Mm,
affects your credibility. It affects your credibility. I know somebody who walked to my office and the person said, HR, I will not discuss any issue with my boss again because I
wow.
said something to you and everybody in my department got to know it. That is about your credibility. So now, said person have lose the credibility in terms of confidentiality. It is out.
Yeah.
So we are saying that a manager need to play a serious role when employees are going into crisis. They need to listen without praying. They
Okay.
need to ask a practical support questions in supporting them. When an employee is going to crisis, as a manager, you do what is called a periodical checkup on the employee to see whether they are recovering from their crisis. And it is important that you recognize when matter need to be referred to a professional for handling. We are saying that confidentiality, information shared during crisis should be limited strictly to those who need it to make reasonable adjustment. When a worker tells you something, it is important that you keep it and then you share with those that they can help resolve the matter. And then the final thing I will talk about is that when these crises happen, the bereavement, divorce, and illness, when it happens, what is the primary impact on the work on your workplace? The primary impact is that with bereavement or grievance, it takes you away from the work because when you lose a family member or a loved one, you're supposed to go for family funeral or those things, and it takes you away. So that is the primary impact on the organization. And as an employer, or as an HR, how do you resolve that matter? You can resolve it by giving an employee a bereavement leave under a policy. Don't forget that bereavement is not in the labor law. It is rather in the organizational policy. Some organization has it in their policy, some too doesn't have it. But if they don't have it, you let the employee write a permission letter, then you can give or grant that permission for the employee to go in order to resolve or help them overcome that crisis. Now, divorce, the impact it has on the organization, that it has an emotional strain, what distracts or even withdraw people from the work they are doing. When somebody is going through divorce or separation issues, it is not easy. Sometimes they lose their concentration. And as an employer, what can you do? We confidentially support referral. You can give them to psychologists for help, or you can even reduce their workload for them. That's a very nice way to do it. You can reduce or adjust their workload so that they can have time to reason, they can have time to overcome said problem. Now, when you talk about the sick leave or the sickness, add that intermittent absent reduce capacity. When the worker is sick, it affects them and they can't even give you the production or the performance or the output you are looking for. And how do you respond? We respond it based on the sections of the Labor Act. You give them a paid sick leave, provided they are able to provide you a medical certificate which is endorsed by a medical practitioner in accordance with the labor law. Now, this is my conclusion, though I'll conclude it, but I want you to look at this scenario and think about it. We have Amma, a middle level finance officer, is going through a difficult divorce over 6 weeks. A manager notice late arrival and makes reconciliation. A sharp tone in meeting that is out of character. Colleagues begin to complain informally, but no one has raised the matter. This is what people do at the workplace. If people are going to crisis and they find some lapses, instead of them to approach the person, they will not, but they begin to talk about it. So that is said, colleagues begin to complain informally, but no one has raised the matter up with Amma directly, and Hammer has not disclosed anything to HR. Now, my question to the audience on this call: what early signal should the manager have acted on? 2, what should be the manager say in the initial conversation with Amma? And then 3, what role should HR play once informed? And then 4, what confidentiality should HR or should apply in any information Amma choose to share? So
Wow.
this is just a scenario I am giving you, and this scenario happens at the workplace. It happens at the workplace. So a worker is going through a difficult time, divorce. For the past 6 weeks, you have realized that she's coming to work late, where she's supposed to do reconciliation, she's not doing it. And when you ask her question meeting, the tonation, the tone that she will respond, you could see that something is odd. Now the colleague started talking about her. Nobody have approached her directly. So he too has decided not to tell HR anything. As a line manager, what early signal should the line manager act upon? What, based on the scenario, what do you think the line manager should look something wrong? Also, what should the line manager say in the initial conversation with Amma in case Amma open up? She's not open about it. They want to approach her. What should be the initial conversation? What role should HR play? You and I, what role should we play? And then what confidentiality limit should we apply? In conclusion, grief, divorce, and illness are not exception to professional life. These things are not exception to professional life. They are predictable part of it.
Yeah.
Professional credibility.
Hi, Evans. Okay, so while we wait for him to come back online, we have Portia. Portia joining from Tema. Thank you, Portia. And then we have Frances also saying hi. And then Sharon from Adenta West. And Kofi Adze from Tema. Thank you all for joining today's episode. I believe that there was a scenario that was brought up. It's something that we should all think about in deeply in our minds and hearts, and give the answers that we need to, that would help us as an employer, as an employee, what you can do to help your organization and yourself. I really wanted to ask Evans a question: that should every organization have a separated counseling office or a psychologist, set apart for people who go through these things, so that they can speak to them before they seek their own professional help elsewhere, rather than maybe talking to their line managers or their bosses, because I believe that it's not everyone who is able to handle such situations. Before you know it, it's all over the place, and the whole organization have heard about your story. But if you have professionals, people who are set apart in the various offices, the various organizations, I believe that can also help. That can also help. Okay, Sophia from Akosumbo said, "Hi everyone. Hi Sophia. How are you? Thank you for joining. Kindly follow us on all our social media platforms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. There is a SEDAT Business and HR Summit 2026. It's coming off in Kumasi. They call it Kumasi edition 2026. And it says that join industry leaders, forward thinking entrepreneurs, and HR professionals at the SEDAT Business and HR Summit Kumasi edition for a powerful day of insight, networking, and transformation. And the theme is building sustainable and competitive business through people, innovation, and leadership. We have early bird tickets, which is going for 700 cedis for in person, 550 Ghana cedis for virtual, and the early bird tickets also ends in August 31st, 2026. Please, you don't want to miss it. Kindly do well to be part of it. Thank you. So you secure your spots now. There is a link that will be shared where you can tap on it and show your interest and be part of this great, insightful program that is about to be seen in Kumasi or have one in Kumasi. Okay, our time is almost up. I can't see any question in the comment section. All right. I believe Evans has done a great justice to today's topic. So the thing is, when you are going through any crisis or any pain or grief, please seek help. Seek help. Talk to somebody about it before you lose your job or before you may sound as incredible. You're not credible enough or you're not competent enough for the job. Meanwhile, you are, but because you don't want to share your problem with anyone, you are not able to show up confidently at your workplace. So all too soon, we are done with today's conversation. Thank you all so much. My takeaway is that being professional does not mean pretending that we are not hurting. Going through a crisis does not mean we have to lose our credibility. With communication, boundaries, as Evans mentioned earlier on, accountability, compassion, and the right support, we can navigate difficult seasons without losing ourselves or the trust we have built over time. Thank you all so much for being part of this important conversation. And thank you once again to our speaker, Evans, for sharing his expertise with us. Have a wonderful day and a week ahead. Thank you all so much. Bye.